But anyway, cops shoot a paraplegic in a wheelchair. Not that he was trying to get out of the wheelchair. Not that he was attacking them. Not that they had cause to put their hands on him at all. They just murdered him. And the grand jury, and, I don't know, maybe the prosecutors get to pick the grand jury themselves. And maybe the grand jurors are always the most boot-licking weasels out of the whole of us. But ultimately, they're forbidden from putting people on trial for felonies without an indictment by a grand jury. It says so in the law. And so when it comes to prosecuting a regular citizen, rubber stamp. Right? If you go to junior college, they'll teach you the phrase, any prosecutor worth his salt can indict a ham sandwich. Because the defense doesn't have a say at a grand jury presentation. And the prosecutor has total leeway to present whatever evidence he wants in whatever way he wants. I mean, supposedly they're forbidden from perjury, but still they can set the thing up to look however they want it to look. And you ought to be able to accuse a ham sandwich and get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. Because instead of a grand jury being a check by the people against prosecutorial power and overreach, it's just their rubber stamp of approval. That's all it is, for persecuting whoever they want. And for protecting whoever the government wants protected. So what happened in this case, you know as well as I do. The prosecutor said, well, the boss says I have to bring this before you for public relations' sake. But honestly, I don't think I could get a conviction in court against this guy. After all, he's a hero. And the proof of that is just his blue shirt and, his black SWAT uniform and his costume jewelry. That's what makes him a hero, not any things that he's ever done, but just the fact that he's a cop who killed a guy. That's what makes him a hero. And just think, he has to remember killing this guy for the rest of his life. Isn't that punishment enough? And the grand jury's like, yeah, you're right, Mr. Prosecutor. We shouldn't prosecute this guy. And that was it. Same old, same old. And you know what? It's amazing that it got as far as the grand jury, right? Wow, that must have been a really controversial shooting that the prosecutors even went through the formality of taking it down the street to get it no-billed. Well, we're worried we might lose 1 percentage point in the poll if we don't at least pretend to give the grand jury a chance to look at this for a second. But meanwhile, cops kill Americans every day. And most often in at least questionable circumstances. I bet, 10% of them or something are justified homicides where an actual bad guy in the midst of a felony decides he's going to point his gun at the cop who's trying to save the day. And the cop, no other resort, has to go ahead and take the guy's life. How often does that ever happen? Yeah, at night when you sit down and watch TV dramas, that's how it happens. In real life, it's just some unarmed black kid with a drop gun, or maybe not even that. That's who mostly gets killed by cops. That and sometimes paraplegics bound to their wheelchairs. And then, you know what? I could go down the list. There's more, man. And I hate cops so much. And I don't think that it's right that everyone doesn't hate cops as much as me. What's the matter with you people? You all just a bunch of boot-licking little fascist toadies? Why isn't it the super majority consensus opinion that all police agencies in America should be abolished immediately and let the free market take care of it? What the hell is this, communism or something? Why should we have to have a socialist police force? That doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense at all. Boy, I've been busy on Facebook lately. Oh, here's one where they just lit this family up at the checkpoint. It was a DWI checkpoint. And then the quote is, every cop turned around and started unloading. Super trigger happy, as if their training was coming into full effect. And I don't know exactly what explanation. That's the eyewitness describing. A cop gets nervous at a DWI checkpoint, which, wait, why do we have checkpoints in the USA? Oh, because it's the homeland, not the USA. That's right. The USA is dead. You very well may have been involved in helping to cut its throat, if you think back which wars you supported and which laws you cheered for. I won't put it on you. You'll have to ask yourself. But anyway, cop panics at a DWI checkpoint, and then all of a sudden, all these cops are back in Iraq. Well, that's why they're cops, right? Because instead of being all you can be, and now you can be a helicopter repairman for a living or whatever, like in the commercial, now you're good for nothing except government employment. Now you're going to come home and be a domestic police soldier, paramilitary, right-wing death squad in America. That's what our government calls them in other countries. Anyway, light them up, boys! And every cop just opens fire on a car full of American citizen civilians, like they're just Iraqis. And the margin of error is go ahead and light them up. Right? Like this might be a car bomb. And how many shots were fired in this one? Let me see if I can go back to this. It's at WECT.com. That's an NBC local channel in what city again? North Carolina, Brunswick County, North Carolina. Every cop turned around and started unloading, like super trigger happy, as if their training was coming into full effect and they were being able to utilize it. God, what language. And anybody who says utilize, I think pretty much in any circumstances, unless you're actually talking about a microchip or something, is just completely out of bounds. The word is use. Stupid. Utilize. Don't you just want to smack the hell out of anyone who says utilize? Anyway, what he's trying to say is the cops finally had a chance to kill somebody, and they took it. Each and every one of them said, wow, I get to pull my trigger. I get to unload bullets at a target, live action in the field. Yay! And they all did. That's what he's trying to say. That all cops are just murderers looking for an excuse. Looking for a chance to murder someone. The witnesses were stunned with what was happening as officers reportedly shot dozens of rounds in the direction of oncoming traffic. Cops are shooting from the front of the car back into the rest of the oncoming traffic at the checkpoint, into the rest of the innocent civilians down the road, said the witness. It was way beyond reckless. I couldn't believe it. These are professional people, professional officers, and they're training, and they're highly trained. And they're not supposed to do stuff like that. Seriously, I want to know how many of these cops are Iraq War veterans and had checkpoint duty in Iraq or in Afghanistan. You know what Stanley McChrystal said about the checkpoints in Afghanistan? Quote, "We have killed an amazing number of people, none of whom were proven to have been a threat." End quote. That's where these rules of engagement come from. You see that? You cheer for a war to go massacre Iraqi women and children because that'll make you feel better about some Saudis and Lebanese and Egyptians based in Afghanistan hijacking some planes and crashing them into New York. Well, this is what you get. Only the problem is, it's not what you get, right? It's what your anti-war neighbors who knew better all along get. And that's my complaint. I think if only American citizens who cheered for the Iraq War, if only they were subject to having their cars lit up at checkpoints, I wouldn't care. You know what? Those are the breaks. That's what you get for mongering murder yourself. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. You send young boys off to kill children at checkpoints in Iraq. You could get shot at a checkpoint when they come back home and put on your local county sheriff's department uniform. Same soldier, same tactics. I mean, I'm not saying it's fair, like eye for an eye, but it is just, turnabout and goes around, comes around, and what are you going to do kind of thing. You give up your empire or you live under it. You insist on empire, you live under it. Do you understand? But instead, of course, it's just somebody who wasn't even bad on Iraq or Afghanistan, right? It's just some regular people, maybe don't even have war opinions at all. They're the ones who get lit up at the checkpoint. Not Sean Hannity. Right? Not your local football coach who went and sent year after year after year worth of his team off to go join the army. All right. Anyway, and then there's 100 more like this, and you know it as well as I do. If you got Facebook and you got more than a dozen friends on there, you watch that feed and you will just see cops killing people every day. Every day they kill people. Just whoever they feel like. And you know how much trouble they ever get in for it? None. They have total immunity, total impunity to murder any of us that they want. Which makes me wonder, why don't they all just do sweeps of fighting-age males or grandmother-aged grandmothers or whatever and line us up and just execute us against the walls for fun? Like in the USSR, in Nazi Germany or something. Since it's agreed that there is no law in the United States of America and that the government can do whatever it wants to anyone it wants, that any cop can kill anyone they want without ever getting in trouble for it ever, how come they only kill, a dozen or 20, 24 of us a week? It seems like they would kill hundreds and hundreds a week, thousands a week. Why not just declare total martial law, total war against the American people, and just use us all for target practice? And just kill us all. What are they waiting for? There's not a grand jury or a Supreme Court justice in this country who would stop them. There's not a police chief anywhere who would fire them. There's not a state legislature who would abolish their agency. And in fact, there's not a neighborhood full of Americans who would be willing to shoot back and defend themselves either. So why don't we live under 100% complete totalitarian Soviet communist slavery at this point? What is preventing them from just rounding us up and killing us for fun? They do it one at a time, every day, a few at a time, every single day. Or do you not read Will Grigg? Because, man, I read Will Grigg, and I don't think there's a day goes by that a cop doesn't execute an American for fun.